You're listening to Through the Chair with Ben and Brian. Conversations that matter to our community.
Well, hey guys, welcome back to Through the Chair podcast. I am Brian O'Donoghue.
And I'm Ben Ward.
And I suppose we better start off with highlighting some of the intergenerational differences. You only have to, if you're watching this on YouTube or anything, or looking at the clips, you only have to look at the head in that lad and the head in this lad to see generational gaps. You didn't appreciate any of my movie references in the last episode.
I did not. No, not at all.
So is there a movie, like, give me a line from your favourite movie and see what I recognise it.
Oh, wow. You're really putting me on the spot there. A
Could
line.
have given you a heads up in fairness.
You could have given me a heads up on that one. A line from my favourite movie.
Yeah.
I can't think of any.
Or a popular movie that you like. You know, I won't hold you to your
Okay,
favourite.
now this is random,
Right.
but I love The Heat. It's
Okay.
my favourite movie. You know it?
With Robert De Niro.
No, with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock. I love Melissa McCarthy. Do you know that? Do you know this movie?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's my favourite movie. It's your classic good cop, bad cop. She's like
But isn't that a remake of a film from the...
from your generation, maybe, yeah. It's a classic. She's a, Harvard grad, like CIA agent, like
Right.
really by the book, wears the suit. And then she's like this small town cop who's like, does not
Okay.
care about the rules. I love Melissa McCarthy.
She's very funny.
Yeah.
Big fan of Sandra Bullock as well.
Are you?
She's also very funny.
Hmm.
No, I haven't seen The Heat.
You
Okay.
have to watch that.
All right. Well, okay, give me a line from a film and see if I recognise it. I don't say, this is the name of the film. Say
Oh
a line from
my God, like...
any film, Ben, and just see what I recognise.
I don't know any.
You can't think of any film. For €1 million, name one film.
No, you're asking me to name a line from a film.
I say a line like...
I don't know
Right,
any.
let me give you one.
You name one.
Right, let me give you one. I'll give you one. Look harder.
What was that?
For those who are watching, are listening, right? Look harder.
By really doing that thing with your eyes does not make it any more understandable.
Look harder.
No.
The Lion King.
Is that...
Rafiki in The Lion King.
No.
Let's check. Lads, would you recognise that? Thumbs up? Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if I've ever watched The Lion King.
You never seen The Lion King?
I don't think so. I've seen bits of it, but... Let's move on.
Right, okay.
The Jargon Jar.
Oh, yes, yes.
So we've told you about this in our first 2 episodes, but basically the idea of the whole podcast is we're trying to make politics accessible to people, make it basically forget all the jargon. So we've done 2 episodes so far. For the life of us, we cannot remember.
I think it's 3-1,
It was 3-1
Yeah.
after the first episode.
but kind of like golf, the lower score wins is winning.
Yeah. So as in you're on 3,
I'm in 3, yeah.
I'm on 1.
Yeah.
So we're sticking with that. So Brian has spoken the
I
most
just have a greater
jargon.
vocabulary. That's what I thought was wrong there.
Sure.
You know. Yeah, and so the loser at the end of this series, we're going to do about 10 episodes, hopefully, and the loser is going to receive some kind of public humiliation. But,
Yeah. And
what
we're
we-
still waiting for the public maybe to tell us what that should be.
Yeah, so drop us an email to throughthechairpodcast@gmail.com or drop a comment on the various socials and tell us what the punishment should be. But now keep it realistic. Like, it can't be madness now. Something relatively... Like, it can be humiliating and still be
Yes.
PC, like, you know. But
So
yeah,
anyway, for our first section, kicking it off with Motions with Notions,
yes.
we're going to do one that I put forward, I think, 2 council meetings ago, I think maybe about
Yes.
April.
Yeah.
So as usual, I'm going to read out the whole motion, and this is not to be included in the jargon jar because I'm going to explain it after, but we have to read out the full motion, okay? So, Carlow County Council recognises the advancement made in healthcare and access to medicine under this government. However, we are asking the Minister for Health to consider reducing the maximum payment under the Drugs Payment Scheme from €80 to €60 per month, in line with the Programme for Government Commitment to consider further reductions in the Drugs Payment Scheme as part of Budget 2027. This motion will be sent to the Taoiseach, Taoiseach and Minister for Health. So, again, that's a mouthful.
Mouthful of words?
Yeah, a mouthful of words.
Okay, right. Couple of things to pick out here. The first is with any motion that happens at a council meeting, anybody who's on the government side of things will always say, well done to the government. And when people from the opposition put down a motion, they will always say the government is terrible.
Yeah.
So it struck me when you were reading that out that somebody who is maybe not into politics or doesn't care or maybe hates Fine Gael or whatever, we said like, oh my God, why are Ben and Brian, saying well done to the government? It's because, well, that's our role is to acknowledge some of the good stuff, and the opposition is their job to point out how terrible we all are. So
exactly, yeah. And I think that's an interesting insight into the difference between being, we'll say, a councillor who is with a government party versus not.
Yes.
So like we obviously are more so working within the system.
Yeah.
Like the Minister for Health is within our party.
Yes.
So, when we're trying to engage with her, we're trying to, change something like the drugs payment scheme. We're trying to make something better for people, but we're doing it in a way where it's not like, you're the worst person in the world, and we're actually trying to engage more constructively. So that's why we say something like that at the start. And on this particular motion, all Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil councillors in the council were actually, signatories on it or whatever.
Yeah. And I thought we could do a whole episode on the whole Fine Gael Fianna Fáil thing in the chamber and being in control and all that kind of stuff.
That's true, actually, yeah.
The second thing I want to pick you up on, and you put down the motion, so I get to pick you apart here. The second thing to pick you up on is that you mentioned the drug payment scheme, right? Now, I would say, as I told you before, I'm 38. I would say there's a cohort of people my age and your age who've never even heard those three words together, drug payment scheme. For anyone who doesn't know, the drug payment scheme is a scheme where every person in Ireland can register for the drug payment scheme, and it means that at the moment the maximum amount you will have to pay for your medications, your prescribed medications in a month is €80.
Yeah.
And now there are certain medications that I did that thing where I look up again. Anyway, there's certain medications that aren't that don't qualify for it or whatever, but they're very few. But generally speaking, it's a fantastic scheme that everybody can apply for. Sometimes people think, oh well, I'm working, so I must be earning too much to actually qualify for it. But no. Every single person, regardless of your income, can register for the drug payment scheme.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about this. I mean, so first of all, like sometimes, it's important, like we said, to point out the progress and the good things that we have. So for example, there's a lot of people who are on the medical card. Yeah. And who have their medicines and access to healthcare kind of covered in that way. But then people who aren't on medical cards, a lot of them might not even realise that when they're paying at the moment €80, and this motion is trying to ask for it to come down to €60 per month, that the medicines that they're buying could actually be costing the state like €300, €400, some of them actually into the thousands if it's really like specific medicine, but usually a few €100. But all of that is being paid for by the state or the government. To cap it at 80.
Yeah, and I'll give you a good example. My daughter has a little cow milk protein allergy. So she hasn't had dairy. She doesn't eat dairy. Now, we're hopeful by the time she's 2 or 3 or whatever, she might grow of it and all that. It's fine. It's not a massive big deal. But she has to have this special formula. This is all I had to do, by the way. Yeah. But so she has to have the special formula. The special formula comes in like 400 gram tubs, right? And they are about 40 or 45 euros per tub. Oh. Now you only get about, I don't know, is it 5 or 6 bottles? And no more. Has to be more. But you only get so many bottles out of a tub. And if you had to spend, and so if you might get a week out of a tub.
Okay.
So for
and does that come under the drugs payment scheme?
If it's under the drug payment scheme, yeah.
Wow.
So what would be €160 a month is actually only €80 a month.
That's such a good example.
So yeah,
and really highlighting the intergenerational difference here that we started talking about babies' bottles. I really did not think we'd get into baby formula today, but
Are you closer to Isla's age or my age? No, you're closer to my age.
Yeah, that's
it's important.
Let's not go that far now.
And come here, tell us. So you came up with this motion because you are you've read the programme for government from cover to cover.
Exactly, yeah. And actually, I didn't even think. I didn't even think of what you asked me. I just said exactly. But I may or may not have read the programme for government from cover to cover. Yeah. But again, that's actually another way that we're trying to kind of hold the government to account, because this is actually the things they've signed up to do. Yeah. So we're not even asking them to do something, that they haven't agreed to. Yeah. So in the programme for government, like it says in the motion here, one of the commitments under I think it's, affordable healthcare, affordable access to medicine, is consider further reduction in the drugs payment scheme. Now, I've made this point before in the council on different plans that we have, that a lot of the targets or ideas in these plans are consider something or look into something. So they've made a very specific commitment here, which is to consider this.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's in there. So that's what I'm asking them to do. I suppose the programme for government is that they'll do all this, or they aim to do all this within the lifetime of the government. So this will be the third budget, is it, of the government, or second?
Yeah, so, well, it would have been, the election was kind of October 20, no, so it's the first proper budget would have been 20.
Yeah, this will be the third.
This will be third, okay, yeah.
Yeah, third budget. So, there might only be 2, maybe 3 budgets left in the government. So I'm kind of calling for them to bring it in this government. And, this episode will be out in August. So the budget will be happening in October, in 2 months' time from now. So, yeah, I suppose this motion was in about April, and I've been doing different things kind of in between to keep pushing at it. But so the council has kind of agreed to this position.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that it will work.
And it's a really good one, and it's hard. I suppose if you were thinking of ways or reasons to be against this, the only thing I could think is, well, bring it down to a fiver.
Yeah.
And I suppose what you have to factor. So, okay, you're only asking for a €20 difference here, right? Now that's still whatever 20% saving for the member of the public, but you're probably talking 200 or 300 million euros. You might know a better, more accurate figure.
I know. I did look this up. There was a parliamentary question asked from, I think, a Labour TV.
Oh, jargon! 3-2. Parliamentary question, Benjamin.
Damn. Okay, a parliamentary question is literally just where a TD, I think, or senator, but TD can ask a government minister or a department a question about anything basically, and it would be officially answered. But they're all available publicly for anyone to see. So just after I finish my bedtime reading of the programme for government, I read every parliamentary question that's ever written.
Yeah.
But there was one from a Labour TD that asked about this. How much is it going to cost? Don't quote me on this. I think it was like 70 million. Or it was something. It was, I think so. I had it written down before, but it wasn't a massive amount considering the overall budget of the Department of Health is 27 billion. So for something that I think it was less than 100 million, I'm not 100% sure, but it definitely wasn't a few hundred million.
But isn't that a good example though of where, the way, if you can be listening to the news or you can be listening to politicians talking, right, and they're talking in the tens of millions or the hundreds of millions, right, and then maybe the council come along and do a road project and it costs $1 million or whatever the case may be, and you'll often hear people ask the question, but you have tens of millions for this and tens of millions for that. Would you not just spend a couple of grand on fixing whatever it is I need? But like anything, when you actually sit down and think, like, so this small change for the end user of €20 is 70 million is a small portion in the grand scheme of things, but it's a huge amount of money to anybody. It's like the entire council, Carlow County Council's entire budget is 68 million, 65 million,
something like that.
Yeah,
or 70. Yeah, something.
So what we're asking for here is the entire, like the equivalent of the entire budget for Carlow County Council to be spent to make drug payments for people cheaper. The only other small reason why someone mightn't be supportive of this is if they're so perfectly healthy that they never ever have prescription drugs and they never need the drug payment scheme. By the way, if you're listening to this and you haven't signed up for a drug payment scheme, sign up for the drug payment scheme. It's a brilliant scheme.
Exactly, and anyone can sign up for it, and it's not some sort of kind of thing just to get people free medicine. It's for prescribed medicine that people need. Like that's the key point of this. It's not for your
vitamin D
supplements, or cosmetics or something. Like if someone is prescribed a medicine, that's the only way they can get that medicine under the drugs payment scheme. So it's actually for medicines that people need. So that's kind of the key point of this.
Actually, good point. So when I mentioned about the special formula, it has to be prescribed by a doctor.
That's what I was wondering when you said about the formula, but obviously that's a specific.
It's called Neocate. You won't get it on in the supermarket shelves.
Is that sponsored?
No, but if you're a supermarket who wants to bribe some politicians, give us a few bob. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that comes true in the budget.
Yeah. And we passed that motion. I think it was fairly unanimous.
Yes.
I think it had full support for it. Yeah. So all 18 councillors of Carlow supported that. And if the Taoiseach and Minister for Finance announces it in the budget, we'll be saying that was Ben's doing. So well done, Ben. Anything else to say on it?
No, I think that's it. That's our motions with notions.
So for on the agenda this week, we have the title of "What role does the council or government play in sport?" Nice little play on words there, pun, Ben. So
yes,
lead us off.
Well, yeah, so I just thought I think a lot of times people don't see what role the government or the council are playing in particular things.
Yeah.
This thing I hear a lot of the time is there was nothing for us in the budget. Yeah, okay, or something like this. And I think that's kind of become a phrase since, I suppose, the one-off measures of the war in Ukraine, COVID, when people got literally specific payments for things.
Yeah.
And I think ever since that, the budgets, people are looking for something specifically for them.
Exactly.
But I think sometimes people don't realise that a lot of the money that's being spent is actually going to things that they use.
Yeah. And while it mightn't be specifically mentioned on budget day, it may well have been committed in 2 previous budgets, and that funding is there annually. I don't know, does that make sense to people? If you're a Leaving Cert person listening to this and it's your first time thinking about the government's budget, if the Minister for Finance announces 100 million euros for something, it doesn't mean that money is going to be spent in 2 weeks. It could take 10 years for that 100 million euros. It's a commitment that's put aside so that when the tax money is coming in, well, remember now we've committed 100 million euros to this, so it goes.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. And even I think about things like I mentioned the 27 billion euro for the Department of Health, but I think the majority of that is paying wages for nurses, doctors, things like that. So it mightn't seem like, okay, they announced this big budget, and I don't hear anything that's directly for me.
Yeah.
But it's paying wages for all the nurses, doctors.
And something that used to drive me mad, kind of early on when I got elected, and I suppose maybe a little bit beforehand, but the word capital. Right now, I'm doing an explainer, so I'm not. It's not jargon.
I'll let you away with that.
I'll allow it. So, capital basically means that, from a government perspective, it means the government is giving money for bricks and mortar. It's to build stuff. Whether it's roads, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a school, whether it's a GAA pitch, a soccer pitch, whatever it is, capital means basically money for infrastructure. That'd be a fair point. And then you have your money for your administrators, and you're paying wages and paying the guards and paying the nurses and paying teachers and all those other things, paying councillors and all as well. So when you'd often see politicians get really excited about an announcement about capital funding, because it means we're building shit. We're going to build something, So back to sport.
Well, yeah, but that's exactly the point. Well, first of all, to start off with, so there's probably 2 parts to this. There's the council's involvement in sport and the government's involvement in sport. And I think this is a perfect illustration of how centralised government in this country is. So I was looking it up. The Department of Sport's budget for, I think, 2026 was 290 million euro. And Carlow County Council's budget for sport now, this is, I suppose, for Active Carlow / the sports partnership. We will get grants from government for millions for sports things, but specifically the council's budget was 370,000.
Yeah.
So do the maths on that one. But
exactly. You're hitting on something I think that's really fundamental here, which is that the government might announce, say, X amount of million for athletics, right? But there's athletics in every single county, and then it's not that the government would just write a check and give it to the chairperson or the CEO or the president of Athletics Ireland. That money goes into a pot, and then the local clubs and the county councils can look for that money for a particular project. So it's not that it's, I suppose, directly lodged in the account of somebody who is then, I suppose, responsible for it. but similarly, but the government will give a budget to the council, and it'll fund a lot of the sports partnership stuff. But the council will also put money towards that.
Yeah,
Do you know?
exactly. And like one example of that, when you hear the government announcing, big money for sports, is like the sports capital grants.
Yes.
They're now changed to this
Large sport infrastructure fund.
yeah.
Or something? Yeah.
yeah, that you have that.
Yeah, ask me a
I
question.
know. Yeah, I'm setting you up for one now because
Yeah.
I'm already down.
Yeah.
But yeah. So one example is that I don't know what it was this year, but let's say 200 million euros announced for. I'm going to keep calling them the sports capital because,
Of course. And people are probably more familiar with that.
yeah,
Anyway, so.
which basically means that, and this is another thing that I think it's important to talk about. Like that's a political decision.
Yeah.
So the government have decided that we want to put whatever hundreds of millions of euro into building the bricks and mortar of some sort of sports facilities around the country, but. So that's kind of the government. They've decided to do that. But then after that is where all the work comes along, because it's either councils or sports clubs or community organisations that then apply to try and get that money, and the long process of developing a match funding.
Oh,
design.
bum, 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 bum. Ring the jargon bell jar.
Oh no.
Match funding. Trial.
Wow, trial.
Trial. Match funding.
funding. Okay, so a lot of the times, as you'll know with Rathvilly, that project in Rathvilly,
The schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse.
Enterprise Centre.
yeah,
Yes.
a lot of the time they will require match funding. So even if you get 3 million euro in funding, the project might be an overall cost of 3.5 million. So the community or the group will have to come up with that 500,000.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's a way from a community perspective. It's a way, I suppose, of ensuring that there is actual local buy-in, and it shows a commitment from the local community that they do want this, and that the money will be spent responsibly. Now you might say, well, why wasn't there match funding for the children's hospital or something? Fair enough. But from a council perspective, the council often has to commit match funding as well. So whether it's all the works that are going to happen here in Carrow Town with the walkway from Barrack Street into the Carrow Shopping Centre and all those kind of things, the government might announce a couple of million for that, but the government will the council will contribute maybe a couple of 100,000 from their own funds.
Yeah.
And that's kind of match funding. On the whole sports capital thing, and this is my own 2 cents now, and I don't mean to be overcritical of something that is so important to clubs and all, but I do think an awful lot of these things, there is too much being asked of volunteers in towns and villages. Like to ask somebody who is doing a day's work, maybe coming home, and on Tuesday they're out training the under 8s basketball team, and then the following night to go to a meeting where they're now suddenly in charge of a €100,000 budget to renovate their local hall. And it's a huge responsibility for that person to bear. If they, God forbid, they go for a pint that weekend in their local pub, they're going to be told, what in the name of God are you doing with the hall? We're not just not going to build a car park or whatever the case may be. So I think it's a lot of pressure, and it's an unfair amount of pressure to put on volunteers. Would you go along with that?
I mean, again, that's another big surprise that I've had since I came into the council. How much of the work with things like this is on local committees. Like, I think genuinely people don't realise how much effort, work, paperwork, planning goes in to, okay, the funding is coming from the government or from the council, but the work to do it is mostly done by local volunteers. Even down to things like tidy towns groups, etc. Like, they are the backbone of the communities all around, like, the county, because without them, okay, the funding might be there, but who's going to kind of do the work, the actual work? But like on the sports capital, like an example of that that you see is usually like, GA pitches or soccer pitches. Like if they have floodlights, brand new floodlights put up, or astro pitches, a lot of them are funded by things like sports capital. Or, for example, recently, like in Ballin, even though I don't think it's directly sports capital, it's more leader funding. They got like something like 300,000.
Okay, I won't ring the bell.
From leader funding, which is European funding, which is matched by the government, I think, but to do up the clubhouses and dressing rooms and everything like that. But again, that's kind of a political decision, but it's backed up then by the voluntary
Exactly.
committee of the.
Yeah, and they have to do an awful lot of the paperwork and lodging things and dealing with the various consultants and so on. Two schemes that work really well are the CLAR scheme and the Rural Regeneration Development Fund, the RRDF.
I'm
And
glad
I let
you. I'm
away
glad
with
you did it in that direction, because if you did RRDF and then explained it, it would have been a jargon jar.
So the hall in Rathvilly is RRDF, and it's basically a fund that was designed a couple of years ago to, as it says in the tin, Rural Regeneration Development Fund to redevelop rural parts of rural Ireland. The beauty of the scheme is, so we have a local committee of 17 people, and we are the local stakeholders, right? But the council is the actual body that will sends in the application to the government department for the money. Okay, so the council actually does all the paperwork and does all the tendering and does all that, and it takes such pressure off the local committee.
Yeah.
The local committee still have an awful lot of work to do. They're trying to fundraise and get the match funding, but that's they can focus on that rather than being under pressure to do lots of paperwork and do tendering and all that kind of thing. And CLAR is similar. The local community comes up with the ideas. They give the ideas to the council applies for the funding, and it's a much less pressured way of doing it on the
Yeah,
local
and I think
committee,
that's a good example. Like, so you have three different parts of that playing together. You have the local community, you have the council, and the funding from government, kind of all working together to ultimately come up with something that's going to help people, not just from Rathvilly, the wider area as well.
Of course.
So I think that's a good example. But so you were talking about the bricks and mortar, which is kind of the sports capital grant. But I was kind of looking up, I suppose, this 290 million euro budget, which again, when people see 290 million euro, they're like, where is that going? Do you know what I mean? Okay, sports capital might have been whatever amount. Where's the rest of it going? So like, there's a few different things. Another example is the Ireland, along with I think the UK, I think are together putting in a joint application to host the 2028 Euros.
Yeah.
And again, like that wouldn't happen without government backing and government funding. I think it's in the tens of millions that it takes to even put in applications like that. So one example of where sports funding is being used is for large sporting events. Another example is the Ryder Cup, which I've tried twice unsuccessfully to get tickets. Have you tried?
I have. And I have a contact.
Don't tell me you got them.
Not yet.
You have a contact?
Yeah.
Can you share this
No.
contact? Can you elaborate in any way on who this contact is?
I cannot.
I need to be there.
No.
But anyway,
I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
You
I'm
vote-
holding you to that. The viewers have heard this.
You vote bod number 1 in May or June 2029, and
Sure, isn't that what I did last time?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, but anyway, that's another example. Like when
Actually, sorry. Were the local elections your first time to ever vote?
wait, no, because we had that referendum thing.
Referendum, okay.
Yeah.
But your first vote in an election,
In an election was the locals, yeah.
and you got to vote for yourself.
Yes.
There
Ben
can't
Ward, number one.
There can't be. You're not allowed to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's not a,
yeah.
that's a reference to history, not a future endorsement.
But that is like we're going to have to reserve a section and some kind of an episode for that whole discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to what you were
But
saying.
that's another point. So again, where's our money going? That's an example of something. So oftentimes, like Ryder Cup, Euros 2028, tens of millions of government sports money, again the people's money, is going in to try and have them here in Ireland. Which I was going to use a term, okay, but I won't use
Economic
the
benefit, was it?
The knock-on effects of having those tournaments in Ireland are just, I was going to say immeasurable, but they probably are measurable in the tens of millions.
No, but even like I think back to 2003. Wait, now were you born?
I was born in 2003.
Oh, so even the Special Olympics in 2003
Was that in Ireland?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was incredible. Now I was only 14, 15. But I remember how much of an occasion it was. Even like when the World Ploughing was in Tullow, or even when the National Ploughing was in Carlow, the impact it has on the people coming in, spending money, the impact it has on Carlow locally is genuinely not measurable.
Yeah, well, I remember the impact of the ploughing because it was all around my house. I woke up and I looked around the back and there was about 500 cars in the field behind my house, and I was like, what is going on here?
And I heard you got a fiver per car.
Yes.
To park them, yeah.
You heard
fair
right.
enough. But sorry, I keep kind of derailing you on this.
Well, no, but that's their examples. I'm not sport, but like they're another example of large events. But and then another section of the funding. So we talked about where like capital things, sports capitals, then large events. Another thing we kind of touched on where a lot of the sports funding and what way the government plays a role in sport is they give money to these national bodies. Yeah. So FAI, IRFU, GA, yeah, exactly. All these type of things. Like they're all
Olympics.
They're all either entirely or partly funded by the government. Mm-hmm. So again, you might think, right, how is that affecting me? But that's the money that kind of comes all the way down to local sports clubs and organisations and buildings and everything like that.
An example that came to mind there was like Charlene Maudsley or Rashida Adeleke. Mm-hmm. Like the some of the sports funding goes towards they apply for grants and they get some funding for their training. Now, personal opinion, I'd give them $100,000 a year just to do what they do because they are like utterly inspirational. But it's very hard. It's very hard to, I suppose, if you're someone who's passionate about athletics, you know, and we lost P.L. Curran just in the last few days, and like he was the team manager of the Irish Olympic team in 1984, before even I was born, right? But where am I going at that point? I'm passionate GAA supporter, right? I like golf, I like rugby, right? And so there would have been a point in my life where I would have been saying, never mind other sports, give all the money to the one I like. Mm. It's very, very difficult then, if you're the person in charge of giving out that money, to try and make sure it's spread evenly. Even if you're the Minister for Finance and you're giving 27 billion to health and 290 million to sport, I'm sure there's an argument here to say, well, actually, if more people were involved in being active and there was more sport, you could actually take the money from the health budget and put it in here, and it would generate healthier, fitter Irish people, you know.
Exactly, yeah. So no, it's a good point. Like, but so like I think that's just like a few examples of like where the money is going and in what way the government is involved with sport. Mm-hmm. But then we kind of mentioned it earlier about like the council's involvement. Yes. Now, again, we mentioned the council budget is about 371,000. That's for the sports partnership Active Carlow, which I think is where we should start with. So originally that section of the council, I suppose, was called something with the word sport in it only. I guess it was only sports partnership.
Sports partnership, correct.
Yeah, but there was a change recently to call it Active Carlow, which was an intentional change, I think, because they wanted to and we wanted to have it not just about sport.
Yes.
It was more so about keeping the county active in all sorts of ways. So a brilliant example of this is like every Friday we get an email from Active Carlow about every single thing that they're doing. And I have to say, the things that they're doing,
the 5 bullet point Friday, it's the email I look forward to every week. I love
me
it.
Too. I love it. The minute I see something, I'm like, right, hopefully there's something around Tullow or the Tullow MD happening here, and I'm going to share it with people. Even if it's not, I do. Like, for example, a while ago there was something about swimming lessons in Grey Cullen swimming pool for people with, you know, disabilities or maybe intellectual disabilities. Again, like that's something that's being funded or helped or supported in some way by Active Carlow.
Without Active Carlow, would you currently be as good at pickleball as you are?
No, that's a perfect example.
So tell us about pickleball.
I am glad you asked me about pickleball, Brian, because I have now gone full into pickleball obsession.
By the way, we need to clip this pickleball segment because there's so many people loving pickleball. This will do massive on TikTok.
Well, I have now fallen into that obsession as well. But it started with there being help through Active Carlow, and they kind of started the whole pickleball thing. But now I'm doing it with Carlow Pickleball Club, and Anto is just amazing at it. We were in Balnational School recently, me, Anto, and my auntie. I don't know how I've went from student in a few months to now teaching pickleball in Balnational School, but it's all down to Active Carlow.
Brilliant.
But yeah, the point being is that, like, that's something that I would never have taken up, would have never even knew about pickleball really. But because there was a 6-week introduction course or, you know, training sessions that happen, I said, yeah, I'll take that up. And again, and now there's like, I don't know, 10 or 12 people doing it every night. I'm going tonight. But yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question? If you don't know, there's no problem. What's the difference between pickleball and paddle?
Okay, so pickleball, basically, a few differences. So the main one is paddle.
It's doubles.
No, this is doubles as well, yeah. So paddle has obviously the walls all around it. So you know the way in paddle, have you played paddle?
No.
Okay, right. So paddle, basically, you can hit
you
the ball.
don't get to be 19 stone and stay 19 stone by playing pickleball, Ben.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to come to pickleball tonight. But paddle, you can hit it against the walls, and also it's a different ball. So in paddle, it's like a solid ball. Pickleball is actually one of those balls, you know, with the holes going through it.
Okay.
You know, those like kind of, hollow balls. And also it's like a big, thick racket that's about, I don't know what size, but smaller than a tennis racket.
Okay.
And like kind of, not metal, but like, yeah.
Okay.
Plastic.
And the main aim of the game is keep the ball in the...
Other than that, yeah, it's like tennis.
Can the ball bounce?
Yeah, once on the other side.
Okay.
Now there's a thing called the kitchen, which you can't hit it within, or you can't like volley it within the kitchen.
This is starting to sound like a Harry Potter.
Yeah. I'm making it sound more complicated than it is. All you need to know is come to Carlow Pickleball Club.
Okay.
Now, look, I won't be holding back.
Okay.
If
no
you
problem.
come. But bringing it back to the main point,
yes,
which is that, you know, that's one of the things that supported, the council supported, I think. But like, that's just an example, you know, now it's its own club. But there's so many different things. There's like Wednesday Wanderers.
Yeah. I know when Victoria from the community section gave a presentation on it at one of the meetings last year, and she had pictures of the amount of people turning up on a Wednesday, and like it's exactly people turn up and going for an arranged walk and a stroll, and it's a cheeky way of being active because like most people love getting out and strolling and chatting and, you know, but such a simple idea, it can't happen without funding being provided for a team to advertise it, get people interested in it, and it's another great advantage of Active Carlow / Sports Partnership.
Exactly, and I think that's the perfect example of how funding can go such a long way.
Yeah.
Like, we see sometimes about funding being wasted, let's say, on things, but that's kind of a relatively small amount of funding.
Yeah.
And they do so much with that budget throughout the year.
Yeah. I
think it's one of the best examples we can show of how good work that the council does and how they're involved with sport. But in this way, like, Active Carlow, because like last year they launched, which I have here,
just one of them.
The 2 documents. One of them was
for the YouTube watchers.
Oh yes, one of them was the local sport and physical activity plan for County Carlow,
and this is the Active Carlow strategic plan. And
that basically sets out like the whole plan for that period of time for what they're going to do.
What's the first thing a councillor does when they're presented with a document like this?
Smile and take a photo.
Well, actually, yeah, possibly. What's the second thing? The second thing to do is flick through it and make sure that no other politician was photographed in the booklet. For God forbid somebody else to get some publicity, like, you know.
Exactly.
But and like these to do these plans, like costs money to staff the Active Carlow. It costs money, but it's money absolutely well worth it, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would say on how sport is funded in Ireland is like we should do more of it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my my eldest brother lived in California for 5 years, and I remember going over to visit, and like they have a different way of doing things over there, but every high school or secondary school had like a 50-meter pool. Had a soccer pitch, an NFL pitch, the investment in sporting facilities on a much more localized level. Like, I think I said this to you before, I would have no problem chopping and changing the budget within Carlow from our overall budget to have our own specific fund for investing in sporting facilities. That would be council owned and run, right? And that's a great idea, but then there's a whole cost of how do you staff those things and plan permission, where you're going to put them, have you to buy the land. There's so much that goes on that, but I think the more we invest in sport, the better this country will be.
And that's a good point, because I think often one of the problems is when people come to us with ideas, and often there is capital funding available, the problem that always comes up is the current funding, if you want to call it, but the maintenance of it going forward. Like, that's always a big issue, which is something that I think needs to be addressed more within the sports funding situation in Ireland.
100%.
The difference between the capital and the current. But yeah.
Have we done enough on that? Did you want to say more on it, or?
No, I think that's it. It gives a good overview of, like, to answer the first question, what role does the council or government play in sport?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of
Well, let's dive into policy versus prophecy. I think I only have one, but let's have one from you first.
Now I have a good one for you.
Go on.
So, Brian, a question.
Go on.
Do you ever eat potatoes or oatmeal, otherwise known as porridge?
Yes.
Well,
Look at me.
well, I'll have you know.
I'm a talking potato. Go on.
Wait, sorry. I want to go back for 1 second.
Go on.
No one mentioned the fact that I'm wearing the Carlo jersey for the
Absolutely.
sports section.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose. So anyone watching, just know I did that on purpose. Anyway,
It'd be interesting to see if it blows up on clips because you're like a loop-de-loop sitting there. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Anyway, so you do eat potatoes and
Yes,
porridge.
I do.
Well, I'll have you know that
You clearly don't, by the way.
I actually have gotten big into porridge now. But is it a policy?
So
or
how does someone get big into porridge? And okay, does your mother make it for you?
No.
Right, go on.
Um,
Because my missus makes it for me. So
does she? Okay. Yeah. Policy or prophecy that if you eat potatoes or oatmeal, that you are officially and legally a member of the lower orders up until 2015 in Ireland.
It sounds so mad. I'm going to say it was a policy.
It was a policy.
But what in the hell was it?
So basically, this law was repealed in 2015, but up until then,
If you ate potatoes or porridge.
yeah, if you had potatoes and porridge, according to a proclamation from 1817, which would have been when we were under the British rule,
Yeah.
the consumption of potatoes and oatmeal should be kept for, quote, lower orders of society.
Okay.
That was an official policy. Now, obviously, in 2015, they probably officially took it off the books
Yeah,
or whatever.
but it wasn't.
But that was a law or a policy of Ireland. So yes, policy.
Could you imagine trying to introduce something like that now? Like you'd be accused of classism and
Yeah.
punching down on poor people, and they'd be separating the elite from the ordinary folk. And oh
Welcome
my
to
God.
Ireland 1817.
You know what's funny though as well is, what were the other people? What were like in 1817? Obviously it was just before the famine. Were they eating caviar? Were they eating parsnips? Like, what were they eating if they weren't eating potatoes and porridge as part of their
I don't
meals?
know.
Like,
It was exclusively for the higher orders, apparently. So we wouldn't know.
okay. Give us your second one, and then I'll do my one.
Okay, so this is one I want to bring it back to the council. Maybe it might become controversial.
Yeah.
Now I think you'll know the answer. But anyway, policy or prophecy. Carlow County Council is responsible for private roads.
Prophecy.
Okay.
Right.
Kind of.
Because
Tell us.
if the road has been, if the road is under the remit of the council, I'm not going to say TIC.
Yeah.
If the road, so I suppose give an example. If you're driving along the N80, and you turn off the N80 and you're on an R road. So you've left you've the N80, you turn left off the N80, and now you're on an R road. The R 1, 2, 3.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call you R Road.
Letter R.
No, I know what you mean.
Okay.
But I know what you mean. Do people know what that means?
They do now.
No.
Oh, no, hold on.
Jargon.
No, absolutely not. No, I'm not allowing it. Right. So you turn off the N80. You're now on an R road, and if you turn off to a smaller road again, you could be on an L road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And off the L roads, then you have potentially private roads. Now, depending on who you talk to, some people said there's no such thing as a private road, right? Unless it's an actual driveway or whatever. But I think the point you're coming to is that there are schemes available where people who are not on an L, an R, or an N road can apply. Is that what you're kind of?
Yeah, well, I think so. Again, it's something that I've learned that there is such a thing, I guess, in official Ireland or in the council, that there is such a thing as a private road. I don't know whether I agree with it or not, but this is the policy as it is at the moment. Like you say, there's national, regional, local roads, but then there's this kind of grey area of roads where some of them may even have a few houses on them, but aren't going to be maintained by
I just realised now
council.
when you were saying "or," you wanted me to say regional.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. Sorry. Yeah, national regional. Sorry. Well done, Ben.
So is it a policy or prophecy? Council is responsible for private roads. Technically, that is a prophecy.
Yeah.
But there are ways that the council can help through these schemes, which we don't need to get into, but there's schemes that people can apply for funding to get these private roads fixed, and I think we do a lot of them as councillors. There's very little funding available for them, not enough to meet the overall demand of these so-called private roads. But yeah.
Interesting one. Can I give you my one?
Yeah.
Policy or prophecy, Ben? The guards or government agencies can legally stop a car if they suspect the person is selling eggs.
Again, it sounds so ridiculous, but I just have to say prophecy.
No, it's a policy.
No way.
You technically, now when would it ever happen? But technically, the way it's phrased is government officials. So, like, presumably,
Councillor Brian O'Donoghue.
no, not revenue. What am I thinking of? Customs.
Customs, yeah.
Customs and so on could actually stop you if they believe you're selling eggs. It's an old.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why it goes back.
Is it still in place?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's similar to that lower orders thing you had, but and they can check cars, boats, trains, and inspect them for eggs.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, so if you're
So it's a
going
policy.
around with a whole lot of eggs, you want to make sure you've a legal right to sell them.
God, now I know never to be going around with eggs in my car.
Do you know what? There'll be someone will send an email in being like, "Is my honesty box okay? I have an honesty box at the front gate."
I'm glad you caught that. Honesty boxes are okay.
Yeah, they certainly are. Okay.
So moving on to any other business.
Yes.
And we have put out to the viewers, to the audience, that we want to answer your questions in any other business. And I suppose it's going to be as unfiltered as possible. I have some of the questions here. So if you want to, we'll be doing more of this in the future. So if you want to put in any question, I suppose, related to politics, local government, council, anything. You got worried when I said that. But you can follow us on @Through the Chair Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
I think pretty much anywhere. Or you can email us on throughthechairpodcast@gmail.com.
That's throughthechairpodcast@gmail.com. THROUGH.
Yes. So will we kick it off?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have a lot of questions. One of them, which I've actually looked up the answer to here, is: are there any events around Ireland's EU presidency happening in Carlow? And I checked the Ireland's presidency website yesterday, and as far as I can see, the answer to that is no. Which I think is actually not a good thing.
Now, I believe the way to do it is that each county is paired with an EU member.
Yeah.
An EU member state. So, like, I don't know who is Carlow's Lithuania.
It's Luxembourg. I think. Yeah.
Which is fitting with Willowboard and
exactly.
Melchi and everything, so that would work. But I'm sure there will be events because Micheál Martin doesn't take over that until
July.
Yeah.
So it would have been last month. But as far as I can see on the official list anyway of events, you know, there's nothing officially, but there probably will be things happening with that partnership with Luxembourg. But I looked on the official list, and a lot of the, I guess, meetings of ministers and things like that are on it. So you know, they're all in Dublin, Cork. So if there is anything, we'll let people know. Now another question.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you. Another question came in. You know, we could spend an hour on this, but we're not filtering these, so we're answering them. Why did Carlow County Council agree to a 15% increase in property tax at the end of last year?
I think it was the year before, was it? Right. Property tax. Very, very quickly. before 2014, the government used to give councils what was called a block grant. So every year the council would say, this is the amount of money we need, and the government would say, there's your money, kind of don't come near us for the rest of the year. In 2014, there was a huge change in how local government was done. In fact, so people would be familiar, there used to be Carlow Town Council, and then that was abolished, and now you have three, you have Carlow Town Municipal District, right? So instead of the government and this is very, very simplified now, and very big general overview, the government used to fund councils that way, and they've now, it changed back then, so now the support is done through the collection of local property tax. Why would you do it that way? It was a way of doing what they call broadening the tax base, which I'm happy to take jargon on it if you want. But
actually, yeah, sorry, I didn't even catch that. But broadening the tax base,
you have to be switched on. Ben. you have to know these things. But so
4-3.
4-3. Okay. So to broaden the tax base, if you have only a certain cohort of people who pay all the taxes, and then there's a big, massive global economic problem with the economy, you know, and those people no longer are earning enough money to pay the taxes for the rest of the country to survive off of, you have a problem. So one of the ways of doing that was, well, they said we will introduce a local property tax, and it'll be based on the value of your home, and people can, like, I remember when it first came out thinking that's very unfair. People are already paying mortgages, they've already paid stamp duty, and I get all that, but it's a way, I think, that somebody can pay their local property tax and then can justifiably say, well, I've paid my 300 or 400 euros. I want the footpath, I want the street light. If you're in a rural part of the country, you might say, well, I want the road surfaced in the next round of resurfacing or whatever. So the point being, so why do we do the 15%?
Yeah.
Right. So, if we the council gets so much funding from the property tax, anyway, because it's set at a certain rate, okay, and there's all these demands on the council for laneways to be tarred, for all the various things, for lights to be put up, for give me a hand with some of the other things we can ask for, you name it, whatever it is, the council needs money to do these things. And one of the only ways, or the ways we can bring in extra money, are we can increase car parking charges, we can increase the amount of the fines for not paying your car parking, we can increase commercial rates, which is a big risk to do because businesses are already struggling, or we can look at the property tax. Now, if we raised it 1%, the difference it would make to the person paying the property tax would be about 3 cents a month. 15% makes it about 15 euros or something across the year. My maths don't sound right there, but the biggest, on the flip side, for the council, 1% brings in an extra 40,000 euros for the council they can spend on projects in your area, or 15% brought in more than 600,000 euros per year. Okay, per year. So over the course of the lifetime of the council, it's an extra 3 million euros that we can spend, not on us, not on fancy offices in the council building, on literally the projects that we want to get done, whether it's the match funding for the Feeding Centre in Rathvilly, whether it's the laneways, whether it's potholes, whether it's lights, footpaths, street cleaning, road sweepers. And that's why it's one of the few powers we have to bring in extra money, and that's why we did it.
And again, it's a political decision. You know, we made a decision that we thought was better, that people might have to pay, I think it is about 10 or 15 euro more, to bring in the council hundreds of thousands of euro worth of funding that we can then spend. And we specifically made sure that the funding was ring fenced into the municipal district, which means basically that the funding is ring fenced, or is only going to be used for direct projects that will affect the area that the money is coming from. So whether that be new footpaths, new lights being put in, improvements of roads, you know, all these basic things that matter to people.
And could we have gone minus 15% the other way and saved people €15 a year or whatever it was? Yes, we could have. But now we have to take €600,000 out of the existing council budget. And that means taking money away from doing road sweeping and taking money away from fixing footpaths and putting in new footpaths and lights. So like we have a responsibility to try and improve the place as best we can, and that's one of our only methods of doing so. And
that's it. Again, it comes back to that problem about, you know, we have to work within the system that we're in. And okay, is local property tax the fairest way to do things? I don't know. That's a question. But we're working within that system, and we had to make the choice about, can we provide the services for people in the here and now? And one of the only ways we can do that is local property tax. And so I think that answers that question.
And verifying on it, if we're constantly asking the government for more money and we have this lever we can pull to get extra money ourselves and we're not doing that, well, why wouldn't the government or our government department say to us, well, help yourselves first, lads, and then if you're still stuck, then come and ask us, and well, at least pull all the levers you can.
Yeah. Next question. Favourite political biography / politician of old whose character you admired? Now, to start off with that, when I saw that question, I knew the answer straight away.
I'm convinced you asked that question yourself. Go on.
It was Nelson Mandela's biography.
Okay.
Or autobiography, one of the best ones I've ever read. And I think I read it like 5 or 6 years ago now at this point. And it was like 700 pages. But it was just that idea that he literally, I don't think people know this. Like, well, they probably do. He went to prison for like 20 years for something that he believed in.
That's a fascinating book. I read it myself.
Like, when you really think about what that means, like a lot of people in politics nowadays have firm beliefs and they're so passionate about something. And
would you go to prison for it though?
Yeah, that's
Would you go to prison for the property tax?
And yeah, I wouldn't go to prison for the property tax. I'd be minus 15% straight away if it was go to prison.
Yeah.
But like,
no,
it was just the idea that he was so committed to ending apartheid that he was willing to go to prison for 20 years and eventually did that and became president of the new, I guess, freer South Africa. But I remember reading that, and that was one of my favourite biographies. What about you?
Oh God, political ones. I tell you, I have 3 books at home that I need to get into.
Well, let's hear one.
So one is about Richard Mulcahy. So Richard Mulcahy, he's the former leader of Fine Gael, but he's a distant relative of mine.
I was wondering how many episodes was it going to take for you to mention Richard Mulcahy? Well, because every Fine Gael speech you make, you love bringing that up.
Yeah. But so he was a guy who was born in Waterford, and he was a Gaeilgeoir, and basically he was leader of the party. He actually was a very controversial figure. He signed the death warrant for 77 of the anti-treaty basically Fianna Fáilers. Shouldn't laugh at really, but so he actually would have been Taoiseach, only the leader of the McBride, leader of I think it was the Workers' Party at the time, refused to work with him, and so Costello became the Taoiseach at the time. But so I haven't actually read it, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be my favourite book. Yeah. And then very controversially, I have the exact opposite of that book. I have David McCullough's De Valera Rise and De Valera Rule books that I need to get through as well.
That'll be interesting. I'm reading Is Ireland Neutral by Conor Gallagher at the moment, and it's talking all about actually De Valera. It's going back to De Valera's input into neutrality and how even World War II, how we were neutral, even though we weren't really. But actually,
I had a text last night from a constituent who was really putting the point strongly about the triple lock, and I was kind of, I haven't really gone into the weeds on it and trying to figure it out, but there's some really strong arguments on both sides. But let's not get into triple lock now.
No. Next question. There has been no playground for a number of years in Tullow. It doesn't seem to be a priority. Now, again...
Well, if me and Bennett had our way...
I'm really happy that this question was asked as well. Because...
It was sent in by a B ward.
Yes. Anonymous profile. No, it's a good question, though, because I think first of all, it is a priority, and it should be a priority, because it's ridiculous that a town of over 5,000 people has no playground for young people. So okay, the reason why the playground at the moment isn't there is because it's been shut because Irish Water are doing works, which, to be honest, was necessary because we have to have that infrastructure to deliver housing. But nevertheless, the works are done now. Look, we have €500,000 plus to develop that new park, new playground back to where it was. But there's also plans that we want to do that playground for teenagers and one for preteens. And we had the opportunity, I think it was last year, early this year, to
go to Part 8.
Which
is purely just to ask the public for permission.
Yes, but
to do a
Part 8,
playground.
that's jargon. 5-3. We wanted to only go to planning to ask for permission to go ahead with a playground in Tullow. And I suppose we were the 2 councillors who voted in favour of it. 3 didn't, and they win. That's 4 didn't. That's democracy. But
And to be fair, there was local opposition to the actual location, and those people are entitled to their views. Our argument was this is a playground for all of Tullow, and the only fair way to do this is to ask the entire community for their thoughts. And the local people close to the location would have had the opportunity to make a very strong, very official submission to say this is why we don't want this, and maybe their fears could have been allayed. Maybe there could have been different things done to make sure that it was suitable for the area. But long story short, they're the 2 reasons why there currently isn't a playground. One, it was closed because of the Irish Water Works, but it will be coming back. And 2, the other one that we tried to do was blocked.
yeah.
Next.
Okay, next. Sorry, now I just have to scroll through. Oh yeah. Has anyone ever tried to bribe either of you?
No. Years ago, someone asked me to follow up on I don't know, was it an issue with a pothole or something, and I happened to get the information really quickly, and the next time I was talking to them, they were like, well, just thanks very much for that, and I went to give me €20, and I was like, Jesus, no, there's no.
Yeah.
Is that a bribe? I don't know.
Probably not.
But
no one has ever tried to bribe me either.
I've never got a call to say, come here, I want to get this planning, if I give you $5,000, can you get it through? Like that, to the best of my knowledge, that does not happen. And even if it did, you could give me 5 million, I wouldn't be able to get I wouldn't be able to guarantee the thing going through,
I think that's the main point. Back to when we were talking about the difference between the councillors and the council.
Yeah.
Even if someone did try to bribe us, we wouldn't be able to do probably what they wanted us to do anyway. So
if you want to give me €5 million, you'll find me in Mexico. I mean, some other country, yeah.
Exactly. So look, that's most of the kind of question. There's a good few more there, but I think we're probably nearly running out of time now.
Can we do one more?
Yeah.
We can do one more.
Where till I find one more that we should do? Okay. What's a controversial publicly held belief that is true?
I have no idea. That politicians get brown envelopes. Oh no!
Actually, yeah.
No, sorry.
Wait, no.
That is true. No, that's the opposite. No.
That's
Wait, no.
not true. Hold up.
Sorry. I said that's back to policy or prophecy. No, sorry. So, no.
So something that the public believe is true.
That is true.
That is true. I actually don't know the answer to that. There's lots of things that the public is a commonly held belief that people think is true, but actually isn't. But something
like politicians were saying to get elected. Okay, the politicians are motivated by power and not by public service.
You think that is true?
No, I don't. But I think it's easier to it's probably easier to say the more things that aren't true that people might believe to be true. But what's the controversial? To be honest, if it's controversial and it's true, you're probably going to know about it. There's nothing that comes to mind that would be blatantly obvious.
Yeah. Me either on that one. It's a good question though. I know exactly where the person is coming from on that one. Because often when the public have lots of views and they're always told that's not true or that's not how it works. So they're probably trying to figure out something. But I think genuinely if something is true, you'll know about it because of how pretty open the democracy that we have is.
Yeah. That's probably much a wrap, is it?
That's it on any other business. Keep your questions coming in. We want to keep answering them. again, we're not going to shy away from any hard ones, so we'll answer pretty much any question you have. But I think that's it from us today.
Super. Well, Ben, I'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to Through the Chair with Ben and Brian. Follow the show on all social platforms to stay up to date.